Hey sons and daughters, this week I'm so excited because I'm joined with my mom. Before we get into anything, I just want you guys to take a look right here. I want you to picture that. That is glory family photos in the early 2000s when I think maybe my mom might have forced us to all dress up. Huh?
It was a stripe theme. It was a stripe theme. We used to do family photos together. I had a striped shirt on, John had a striped shirt on too.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Really good times. But anyways, I asked my mom to come on because the other day I picked her up from the airport and she just had gotten back from Sweden.
Yes.
And she was preaching for Jesus Culture in Manchester, and then in Sweden. And she told me some amazing stories, and I just wanted her to share with you guys those stories.
Yeah. So I went out to lunch with the pastor and his wife afterwards, and this particular church in Sweden has been very integral with some of the refugees that have come in from Syria and Iraq. And so they started telling me the most beautiful stories. And one of the particular stories that they told me that I loved was, well, this part I didn't like. There was a man, and the Taliban showed up at his house, and this commander said, "I want your 12-year-old daughter as my wife." Mm-hmm. And he was like, "She's 12. Yeah. She's 12. And he was like, "You either give me your daughter to be my wife, or tomorrow I will come here and we will kill your whole family." And so he didn't want to tell his wife. He didn't want to tell his children about it, but he was totally distraught. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they went to bed that night, and he was praying, and he said, he was praying, and he thought, wait a minute. All of my life, I have prayed to Allah. And things keep getting worse. And he said, I have heard there is a Christian God who is love. So he didn't even know. So he just said, Christian God who is love. That's what he prayed. Yeah. He said, save my daughter, save my family. And Arden, Jesus walks into his house. Yeah. This man in white, as he describes it, and this is what he says to him. He says, I will rescue you and your family, but you have to flee now. And he said, when you're hungry, I will feed you. When you are naked, I will clothe you. But wake up your family and leave now. Wow. So he wakes up his family and leaves. And you know what we saw? We saw that mass exodus when they were on those little yellow rubber boats and they were going from Turkey into Greece. Well, while his family was approaching the shore in Greece, this church in Sweden had sent people to stand along the shoreline, and this is what they yelled out. Yeah. When you're hungry, we'll feed you. If you're naked, we'll give you clothes. Yeah. And so he and his whole family were like, we're going to Sweden. Yeah. And they all are born again and in this church. And here's something so exciting. Yeah. They have to have an Arabic service and a Farsi service because they have 600 refugees that are now born again in their church who believe their whole mission in life is to go back and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ to the other people. Yeah,
which is amazing because Jesus was a refugee.
He was a refugee.
He fled to Egypt, and so it's amazing to hear the stories. But then there was another story about a train.
Yes.
And I wanted you to share.
I will tell that story as well. Okay, so there's a 25-year-old man, and he now is in Sweden already, and he's gone before. He's trying to, earn enough money to send for his parents and his sister and the rest of his family, and he keeps having this reoccurring dream where people are standing in a building with their hands up in the air, and he's like, "What is this? Where is this building?" So he starts asking everybody in the village. He said, "Where's the building where everybody stands with their hands in the air?" And they're like, we don't know what you're talking about. So he thought, you know what, is a big building. I bet if I get on the train, I'll see it from the train tracks. So he starts riding the trains, and he goes all the way up to Stockholm, gets off, and this man out of the blue says to him, "You went one stop too far. Get back on the train." And he's like, "What?" Yeah. So he gets back on the train. He goes one stop south to Uppsala, and guess what? He gets off the train. He starts asking the people, where is the building where everybody is standing with their hands up in the air? And the people said, there's only one place I could be. That's Word of Life. Yeah. And so he goes to Word of Life. He walks into the church. It's during a conference.
During the weekdays, right?
During the weekday. Yeah. And the guy is saying, if you want to know who Jesus is, put your hands up in the air. And he gets totally born again.
Get radically saved.
Radically saved.
Which I love.
Amazing stories.
Yeah. And I know for me, when you told me those stories, it just so encouraged me. I was like, oh my gosh. Because you hear all the amazing things, you hear all this stuff, but Jesus is like walking into people's rooms, and people are having amazing encounters with random strangers.
Yeah,
and just God using people.
And the Viking pastors that were hosting me were like, he doesn't appear to us.
Yeah, they're like,
he doesn't come to us. We pray for these people. Why does he not appear to us? He appears to them and not to us.
Yeah, which then I think people do ask that question. They're like, well, why doesn't Jesus appear to us? And it's oftentimes because Well, we are his spirit, like his spirit's inside
We are his
of us.
hands and feet.
When we walk into a room, Jesus walks into a room. And so these people overseas, I mean, these refugees,
Never heard
they don't,
anything.
yeah, they don't have the opportunities that many of us have to be able to, hear the gospel. And so Jesus is literally appearing to them, which I love, because Jesus is going to the war-torn part, and he is literally walking into the room, and he is changing people's lives. He's getting them saved, radically saved. And his
Can I tell one more story?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so they also hosted this Welcome to Sweden thing where they would tell people how to get jobs, try to teach them Swedish. And so there was just 13 people in an apartment talking about they had just come from this meeting.
Yeah.
And Jesus walks in. They're not talking about Jesus. He walks in and unpacks the plan of salvation, and they all get saved.
Yeah.
Now, here's why I think you love this so much, Arden. I know your heart.
Yeah.
I know your heart for your generation is to see signs and wonders and miracles, to see this distinguishing. And I know for me, as an older person, this really builds faith for me.
Yeah.
That we are going to see these things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree 100%, because I do believe this generation, God's got something on it. And I say it every single time, God's got something special on it. And I want to see us walk in the fulfillment. And so we've got to understand when we walk into a room, it's the same as Jesus walking into the room. And then where Jesus takes a family that is headed to destruction, and when Jesus walks into the room, everything shifts for them. It's the same exact thing for us. And so we've got to walk into our life, walk into our situations, our jobs, schools, our families, whatever we're going through with this understanding. We're walking in with God's Spirit. We're walking in as Jesus walks in, and we have the ability to change everything that is going on. So guys, thank you so much for joining us this week. I hope these stories have encouraged you, and I'd also love it if you could comment down at the bottom. We'd love to hear some of your stories. Maybe you've had an amazing encounter with Jesus, maybe through a friend, maybe it doesn't have to be Jesus walking into your room. Just something that Jesus has done. Share and encourage other people of what God is doing in your life and the people around you.